That was a great entry. Welcome, everybody, back to the Fandom Zone News. Today's a little bit different. Today, I get to mix my two favorite things. I get to mix entertainment with actual news, which is more than even the regular media does. We're going to talk about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but not just about the movie, but how it is pretty close to the story. Granted, Quentin Tarantino puts his Quentin Tarantino spin on it. It's more of a what if scenario, but the stuff leading up to it, the figures that appear in the movie and the way the movie is shot and presented is actually quite accurate to the way most of the events went down. And before we really get started and diving into this, I want to just say I heard a comment earlier. What up, Timon Flip? Which Jamie Vick pointed out, and I heard from a lot of people. She said the movie was boring, and here's the thing: it's surprising. A lot of people have said that very same comment, and you know what's interesting? Even you, Bigley, you said you didn't like it the first time you viewed it
I
until
didn't
you
say
watched
that.
it again.
No, I didn't say
What
that.
when we were talking about it, you did.
No, what I said is the first time I seen it, what I said it was a good movie, but each time I watched it, it got better and better.
Oh, I thought it took a couple of viewings to for you to get
No, no, it just got
the.
better and better. And anybody that's seen the movie and said they didn't like it, I feel really sorry for. I'll be honest with you. I don't
Well,
see how you can.
well, here's the thing. I don't think it's not that people didn't like it because Quentin Tarantino makes good movies, great dialogue and stuff like that. But there is a thing where that a lot of people I don't think get what he was referencing in the movies, and it's a critique I've heard around from a lot of different places. Is that uh, it references things that I don't think people even really get now because some of the things he brings up was a long time ago, and the unless you followed these things, you wouldn't pick up on that. I mean, when it got to I started getting into what was going on when they got to the compound, and I go, oh, this is where they're going with it. But it took me a while to actually figure out what this movie was about in the first like 45 minutes. I mean, it's not really clear. It just seems like a guy, a stunt guy, and Brad Pitt plays the tough guy, Clifford, and he's best friends with Leonardo DiCaprio, and it really has two great stories. The first story is about Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio. One's an aging actor past his prime, and he's trying to find a role to break out. And Brad Pitt is his best friend, his stunt double, and they're just trying to make that big break. And then the second part of the movie is about what happened with Charles Manson and the whole cult thing, but you don't know that until about midway into the film. So, I mean, it's weaving two different stories that are interconnected, and they take these fictional characters, but they place them in a real life scenario. They're kind of like the X factor in this. So, first off, let's talk about the strengths of this film. So, what would you say would be the strong points of this movie to you, uh, Big Lee?
Well, it movie without trying to be funny. Like the scene when Brad Pitt is by his car and he's talking to him about martial arts. Then he throws Bruce Lee through the side of the car. Bruce Lee is a myth. People think he's just the greatest. He's not. Not even close. And he was a guy that built himself up, and in the movie, it kind of brought him down a little bit. And then I love the part where where Brad Pitt goes to the ranch where Manson and his family is, and because that part is true, because Manson went onto the ranch, and there was an old man that lived there, and he used to shoot cowboy movies. The girls there, the Manson girls, used to have sex with him so they could live there. And he was like 70, 75 years old. And Dern played. He does a good job playing the grumpy old man. The movie had so many good parts that, you could really get into them, that, you can go over and over.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I like that Bruce Lee scene, and I'm a big fan of Bruce Lee, but it is true and it is documented. And there was a lot of negative press with this. PB, I think me and you might have talked about an article where Bruce Lee's remaining family got mad about the movie because they felt like it was insulting Bruce Lee's legacy. But really, when you look at that scene, Bruce Lee was documented as being kind of cocky. And, he had been beat several times. I mean, he had his back broken. And,
it's a fictional story, so they could have turned Bruce Lee into a woman, and you can't say anything about it.
Yeah. And the movie is fictional. Yeah, the movie, as fictional as it is, had a lot of true parts to it. That's what really made it a great movie. Of course, the ending was, silly fun, but, it was more of a what if ending. But the movie had a lot of true parts.
I mean, he set up a template for this kind of movie with Inglourious Basterds, because a lot of the stuff he put in there was actual stuff that was going on during World War II and things like that. But the whole part with Brad Pitt and the Nazis, and of course our favorite Bear Jew, that was all fictionalized. That would have been cool to have a historical moment with the Bear Jew taking out Hitler, but we all know that's not how it went down. But it's still great to have that kind of really funny what if scenario that either people or think about or wish would happen. So I think that, I really got stunned.
I mean, don't speak for all of the stupid people out there. There's a lot of people that think Alexander Hamilton is a black man.
Yeah, oh God, yeah. Thank you, Hamilton, for that. But I mean, no, it is definitely interesting, and I liked the whole fact of thinking about what if they had broken in the house before that house, what if they had not, gotten Brad Pitt or Leonardo DiCaprio, but, they had been stopped at a different point. How does that change history? That to me was the most fascinating aspect of the film. I mean, PB, what do you think?
Dude, the most fascinating aspect of the film is the fact that he keeps a flamethrower in the shed out back.
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah. It's just imagine breaking into a house and they set you on fire and you fall into the pool.
I mean, how many people have you ever known in your life that have a flamethrower?
Probably
I don't even know.
Probably Hollywood stars.
Exactly.
I've never read somewhere where like, hey there, you all want to go back and just shoot the flamethrower really quick? It'd be like, where did you get this? Like, but no,
right? I will be friends with the guy with the flamethrower.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. That's the guy. That's the guy you want to hang with during the apocalypse. The guy with the flamethrower.
Damn right.
Yep, zombies, anything like that. You want to find the guy who has the flamethrower in the shed. That's the man who's going to take it.
Unless he runs out of gas.
Yeah.
then it's just a big useless thing he's carrying around.
So, all right. So it had a lot of good parts, but let's talk about the most interesting aspect of the movie. And the twist of the movie is that we don't know. They're talking about the neighbors are Sharon Tate and that whole thing. Could you tell us about this situation and how this is actually pulled from real events?
Hey, Lee, can you do me a favor and put me in the back room? I'm gonna come in another way using my another computer because I'm having trouble with this one.
Yeah, no problem. We'll put you in. So, anyways, just to set this up for everyone who's just joining us, we're talking about Once Upon a Time in
So you
Hollywood.
want me to explain it to everybody? Excellent.
Yeah, do you know who Sharon Tate is?
Sharon Tate's the next door neighbor.
No, so everyone who doesn't know, Sharon Tate was a big time Hollywood actress. She was getting ready to make a big breakout. She had been in a couple of films. She was married to a producer, and she was getting ready to make her break. But if you guys don't know who Charles Manson is, Charles Manson was a charismatic man who kind of ran a cultish kind of thing with a bunch of females.
Kind of. You ain't
Yeah.
gotta say kind of.
He ran a cult, basically. He had males and females, but majority were females. He liked to brainwash young women, and these people would go around and do killings for him. And one of his famous killings was the killing of Sharon Tate. A group of his followers went and they broke into the house and they killed everybody who was in the house. A lot of the people who were there were big time people. Like one was a Hollywood producer, one was a guy who owned a major coffee company. It was one of the most influential and devastating acts that they had done. This is the thing that edged his name as a synonymous serial killer. And yeah, so I mean, this is a pretty big thing. And it was funny because there were a couple of younger kids in the theater, and they had no clue when they got to this point what the twist was. And I said, "Oh shit, that's oh." And to be honest with you, I thought it was going to go in a different direction, that they were going to show the massacre, but then it got derailed. So,
Okay.
I mean, it didn't get derailed. It went crazy.
Yes, it did. Well, you know, so you guys are at the part of the ending with the killing, right?
yeah.
Okay. So you want me to go on from that point?
Yeah, so tell us about some of the people.
Okay.
And,
well, okay, here's how it goes. You had the gentleman that went to the bottom of the driveway and met Brad Pitt. His name was Jay Sebring. And his family, there's a movie coming out with Emile Hirsch playing him in 3 days. It's the movie of his life. Basically, the movie talks about how he disappeared from society and life because he was a victim of the murder. Even though he was a famous hairstylist, and he is the first man to open up a beauty salon for men. He had customers, Frank Sinatra, Kirk Douglas, and he was considered the greatest male beautician in the country, and at that time. And he also was before Sharon Tate broke up with him. He went out with Sharon Tate, then they became best friends. But as you know, Sharon Tate was 9 months pregnant when she was murdered. But history has not been kind to him, because there was a lot of lies made up. They said they found cocaine in his car, and the press nicknamed him drug dealer to the stars, even though there was no drugs in his body, nothing in his system. And the police did reports and said it was all made up. They never found that. The media just made it up. They never found any cocaine in Jay Seaverman's car, no drugs. And he had a Mercedes Benz. It was brand new, and there was nothing there. So the media just did a number on him and destroyed this man in death. So this is why this movie's coming out. And he is the tragic figure. He is more tragic figure in this murder than is Sharon Tate. Because when they came in the house and murdered them, he had over 20 knife wounds on his body, and he was shot several times. And none of the bullets ever killed him, because he kept fighting Tex, Big Tex, one of Charles Manson's disciples. And
wait, so these people never went through any type of fire range training before trying to kill people?
Nothing. No. But you got to remember, this guy Tex was from Texas. He was a big cowboy. He knew a lot about guns, and he was also a very tough guy. And fighting him is like fighting a street fighter. And that's why, Charles, but I'll get into the story of why they wound up there. But this guy is a tragic figure. And when I did the studying on this murder, I never knew about this guy. And then when I read about him, I was like, it was really depressing what they did to this man. He was all the movie stars back then, when you had the classy movie stars, this guy was also friends with Bruce Lee. And he introduced Bruce Lee to the guy that was directing the Green Hornet, and got Bruce Lee his job as Kato. Wow. That's how popular is this hairdresser. And Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. used to hang out in California. They would hang out at his salon and just hang out there like days at a time, because they just wanted to be around this guy. And this guy was like, just one of those guys but he was also considered a total
particular
playboy.
Salon had the best drugs.
No, there were no drugs. That's why.
Well, that's sad.
Well, Kirk Douglas is known as a man of class, and Kirk Douglas came out and said that he was ashamed of. Kirk Douglas said he was ashamed of what they did to this man, because Kirk Douglas was really good friends with him. And he said that everything that they were saying, everybody knew was a lie. But like the media does now, the media just destroyed this man. And the movie coming out kind of starts off with a face that's empty. There's no face, because he was killed with history, because everybody wanted to notice about the beautiful blonde that was killed there, Sharon Tate. And but this man fought so hard to save, and the girls that were at the murder scene said that all he did was fight. He was fighting for 10 minutes, and finally Tex just had to put 6 bullets in him. It still didn't kill him. He jumped up off the floor and was still fighting. And then Tex stabbed him several times in the heart. And Tex was so pissed at him that he put a hood over his head, a noose around his neck, and like half hung him. Wow. It was a horrible, brutal death. And that was the guy that came to the bottom of the driveway in the movie. And it's, if you know about the murders, and that's the thing with this movie, young people would say it was boring because they didn't know much about Charles Manson. Heck, they don't know about 9/11 anymore. So why would they know about Charles Manson or those murders?
Yeah, see, this is the thing that I think was an interesting choice, was the fact that this movie focuses a lot on a subject. And just so you know, I muted you for a second because there's a little bit of feedback, but this movie focuses a lot on the history of this murder that happened a while ago. And, unless you studied it, or, you heard about it passing, or you have an interest in serial killers or something like that, you would not know much about Charles Manson or this cult. You might have heard a couple of interviews or seen a couple of things, but it was a very bold choice because this isn't something that a lot of people have even brought up or talked about or made a relatively competent movie about. So it's cool to see that him swing back to something that most people didn't talk about. Kind of a gutsy call for a movie to do this kind of a story.
Yeah. Am I unmuted now? Okay. So what I want to do is I want to go over the names of the people killed and give you a brief summary on each one of them, just so you get a feel of the people that were murdered that night. Okay. Well, a week before that murder, Charles Manson ordered the murder of another man. His name was Gary Heineman, and he was murdered 1 week before because Charles Manson thought he was a snitch. And they said Charles Manson was at that murder and murdered him with a sword and then left the scene. And the guy that wind up buried, they tortured him for the next week, and then they got rid of his body. And that guy, Gary Hinman, they murdered him because he wouldn't join the cult. And plus they were saying that he owed money, which they were basically trying to rob him. And then the second murder is when they went up to the house, and it was CeeLo Drive. It was 1005 CeeLo Drive. But Charles Manson did not know that these people lived there now. At that time, he thought it was a record producer who didn't like his music. So he wanted to send someone up there to kill the record producer. But that guy moved. So basically, when he went up there, there was the first person they killed. His name was Steve Perrant. He was an 18-year-old kid who was there visiting the gardener, and he just happened to be leaving. And they shot him 5 times in the chest. And then they went in the house. And when they went in the house, that's when Jay Sebring, who was a black belt, by the way, and he competed in several martial arts tournaments. That's how tough Tex was. And so he says to Tex, "What are you doing here?" And Tex looked at him and said, "I'm the devil, and I'm here to take your soul." And just like in a movie, remember that he said that to, he said, "I'm the devil" to Brad Pitt?
Yep.
In the movie?
Yeah.
But he said that to Jay Sebring. And so what they did is the next victim was Abigail Folger and her boyfriend, Wojtek Fragowski. But Abigail Folger was the heir to the whole Folger estate, Folger's Coffee. So she was murdered, and they murdered them right outside the door on the front lawn, her and her boyfriend. And then they went in and they tortured Sharon Tate. They cut off one of her breasts. I hate to say that, but they did. And she was 9 months pregnant, and they stabbed her in the stomach, and they wrote "pig" all over the wall with her blood. And he tried to say, and Jay Sebring, when they did the autopsy on him, see, I watched the autopsy report online. When when something happens and they have they have a big thing the next day. Well, I watched that online, the actual one, and they said that he put up a ferocious, vicious fight. But you know what? The media never reported the fight that he put up. All they said was, yeah. So so when he died, basically rumors started because so many movie stars knew this guy. And so the media just went right in on it, and to imagine that they called this guy a drug dealer, and they nicknamed him in the papers, a drug dealer to the stars. And he wasn't. So, let me tell you a little bit about this guy, Jay Sebring. He was the first beauty salon to use a blow dryer ever. And he introduced it. And he was also the first beautician in the country for men not to use he used scissors. instead of shavers. So he used the scissors and he used a blow dryer. And so when he opened up his shop in California, the average haircut cost 50 cents to $1. So he said, what the hell? I'm going to charge everybody $50 each. So everybody started paying him $50 each and showing up, because they're like, wow, movie stars was $50 to Kirk Douglas but he was best friends with Paul Newman. He was very good friends with Steve McQueen. I mean, this guy knew the greatest stars, period. And he was with Sharon Tate for 2 years, and he was in love with her, and she broke up with him because he made the mistake of introducing her to her husband, and Roman Polanski. Roman Polanski is the director that made Rosemary's Baby, and right now he is in France, and he can't come to this country because he has a warrant out for raping a 14-year-old girl, drugging her and raping her. So he's not allowed back in this country. And if he does come back in this country, they will arrest him. But he makes all these really good movies, and he's a big, that's what he is. He's a director. But he went nuts after Sharon Tate died. And he just started doing some real weird shit. But the whole scene with Quentin Tarantino was based on what if they lived? What if this horrible thing did not happen that night? Because at the end of the movie, Leonardo DiCaprio walks up with Jay Sebring, and then Sharon Tate comes out, and they're bragging how they just killed a bunch of people that tried to break in their house. But unfortunately, that's not the way. But unfortunately, as we know, that was the one. Yeah, and unfortunately, people see that's the one thing about Quentin Tarantino. He is so brilliant that he knows things that people don't know. And you got to remember, he's about my age, so he knows about these murders and stuff. When he made this movie, the problem with people seeing this movie is they didn't understand what he was trying to say because they didn't know about them. And so they got a movie right now coming out in 3 days on Jay Sebring's life. Now, you guys are familiar with Emile Hirsch, am I correct?
Yeah, I know Emile Hirsch.
So he's playing Jay Sebring. And the reason that they made the movie is because Quentin Tarantino made a call to a guy and said, you know what? He says, I've been doing this movie here that I'm making about the Manson murders. And he goes, and then he started talking about Jay Sebring. And then Quentin Tarantino's in this movie too, where he's talking about Jay Sebring. And he says the same thing. I discovered this guy that I knew nothing about. And what an amazing human being he was. He was an exciting man. He was like, everybody wanted to know him. And he knew the biggest actors on the face of the earth. They all hung out with him. And so, but you would never think that this guy existed. I didn't. I always considered myself knowing. I read lots of books on the murders. Helter Skelter, one of the best-selling books ever. I read that whole book. But, that is what it was all about. It was, this guy's life got literally erased. Just erased. Everything he accomplished just got erased.
Wow. All right, so I'm just gonna mute you again so we don't have an echo while I ask PB, what do you think? Finding out some of these facts, like, what do you think about how that adds to what this movie is, and just observing it from the outside? Do you think that now it kind of brings into focus what the point of the movie is, what the message is?
I don't know if it necessarily brings into focus the point of the movie, but being that you're not focusing on the actual people that got killed in real life allows you to escape the horror that happened there in the movie.
Yeah, and I mean, when you think about it, okay, we have the ending. Even the fictional characters survive, right? Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio survive that four-way. It's kind of got dark humor because they're almost like, these guys broke into the wrong house, right? But when you think about what if
Right.
scenarios, it brings up this thing like, wow, how does the dynamic of the world change if these people actually lived their lives out, right? What would have happened if Sharon Tate would have continued? What would have happened if we had a different heir to the Fulton Empire, or if things went down differently? You know, it opens up this kind of weird thing. And you and me were talking about alternate timelines before, right? So what does an alternate timeline
Oh, we'd definitely
look?
be living in an alternate timeline, that is for sure.
You know, like what does it
We'd
look
have
like with a different.
Astro Doze instead of Starbucks.
Yep, definitely true. Definitely true. So there we go. Oh, you sound much better, and I don't hear an echo. Thank goodness.
Well, I'm trying to come in this way. I'm having trouble with my computer. I'll try it again because I want to get you some pictures.
Yeah, you sound much better. You're not breaking up, so that tends to happen here in Yod. But yeah, you know, it's always interesting to see these what if scenarios and things like that. I think the strong point is too, and this is one of my favorite parts of Quentin Tarantino movies. Look, as critics, we all know about dialogue, right? It's necessary, but most movies have the most boring, generic dialogue, or it's just kind of just something to pass a scene or set a scene up. But I tell you right now, I could listen to Quentin Tarantino dialogue all day. He has some of the funniest like lines and the way that people talk. For me, it's like listening to a real conversation, but a really interesting real conversation. And at the same time, he's explaining stuff in the movie, in the dialogue, but it's so snappy and sharp. PB, I don't know how many Quentin Tarantino movies you've seen. I've seen every single one.
7.
I own. Yeah, I own most of them. You know, especially with Samuel L. Jackson. One of my favorite was Pulp Fiction, but the dialogue is really the highlight. Like they're violent movies, yes, but really the highlight of what he
Yeah,
does
I
is
love
not
the
only
dialogue in Pulp Fiction when John Travolta is standing there alone looking back and forth.
Well, no, I'm talking about the scenes between him and Sam Jackson, especially the beginning. My favorite part.
Oh, like when they're talking
Yeah,
about having to take a shit.
no, the part with the burger when he's talking about the metric system in
Oh, about the
France.
Royale with cheese.
Yeah. It's like stuff like that where they're putting in something smart and witty, but also it's an interaction, it's a conversation, and I think that's a really strong point. And in this movie too, look, one other thing I want to highlight as a strength of this film is that there is another storyline that's compelling and true to real life. This is about an actor who's past his prime, trying to get noticed again with a stuntman who needs work, and he gets work whether or not this actor is in films. How many Hollywood people probably relate to that? How many big stars do you know where you go, you know, what the hell happened to them? They used to be in this, this, and this, and then they just dropped off the face of the earth. And then they make a comeback, right? So it's also a tale about an actor trying to make a comeback into the limelight before, people are saying you're past your prime or whatever. And, he was in a big show, he was in a movie, and then, he kind of dropped off, and now he's trying to get another run to make that big break. So there's two very interesting storylines going on simultaneously, and I found them both very engaging.
Yeah, but he keeps a flamethrower in his shed at home.
Yeah, that was from one of his movies. I
I
doubt.
know, because they let you take the props.
I wonder if they let a Hollywood star, especially nowadays, if they let a Hollywood star just, yeah, here you go, have the flamethrower from on set. I wonder if it would have even worked, or if it, because some of those props do actually work. I mean, look at
Some of them
Jaws.
have to work.
You click that picture in.
Hold on a second. Yeah, here we go. So this
That's
right
Sharon
here
Tate.
is a, like, yeah, I'm just saying. Wow.
That was
Sharon
Sharon
Tate.
Tate.
Relax.
Hey,
27
hey,
years old. 27 years old when she was murdered, and that was the sad part.
and here's the thing too. She was on her way to a big break. So we don't know what she would have done. In the movie, she's getting a role. It's supposed to be a really big role that's gonna, break her out. So
I don't know. It
essentially,
sounds like she got a big break. She's more famous than she ever was.
That's
yeah,
true.
that's a,
That's true. How famous? How famous was she? That's true, though. A matter of fact, think about history. She look how famous she is, and he would have been 10 times killed there. So in reality, she became the star from history.
yeah. I
Kind of
mean,
ironic, ain't it?
that's actually really crazy when you think about it, because it's pretty indicative to life when you see a lot of these stars that their legends are built and they did either mediocre or subpar things, or they didn't actually get that to break into the really big supposed huge roles, but they died at the right time and bam, they blew up. I mean, uh, you know, Steve McQueen, right? His movies are, ridiculously synonymously famous, but if he would have kept on going in his career and not died young, would he still be as popular? I always wonder that. I mean, they're great movies, but I mean, would he have just been one of them people who you talk about? Yeah, he did a couple of movies, but then he had really bad movies towards the end of his life. You know what I mean? It's it's definitely, for some reason, death gives you a lot more currency, which is kind of morbid.
Unfortunately, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, let's use a current one that some people could relate to. Uh, Look at Michael Jackson, right? Every scandal, all those things that has happened, but his
Can I
albums,
look
that
at
final
young
tour,
Michael Jackson? Because old Michael Jackson looks creepy as hell.
he might look creepy, but that tour towards the end of his life, he made so much money off of that final tour, that video. Those things got uh astronomically propelled after his death. All of his CDs went up. Everything he's ever done, all of the old records and everything else.
Guy, he had 1 billion people watch his funeral.
That's my point. 1 billion, and it's a funeral. Just think about that. That is crazy. And the media still attacked him, even when he was dead. So, I mean,
It's their favorite thing to do.
oh yeah, the favorite pastime is attacking people, and especially people that can't defend themselves. That's the best person to attack
Well, yeah, he
because they
wasn't
can't deny.
around to say, I support Joe and Kamala. And then they would have said, oh, well, you can touch as many little children as you want.
Yeah,
That's how it works on the
so
Democrat side. It's like you do whatever you want as long as you vote Democrat. If you can push the socialist agenda, you can get away with anything.
Yeah, yeah, that seems to be the model for 2020. But yeah. So, swing it back around. Dad, what other interesting facts? What little tidbits do you
Well,
also
I got
have?
another picture. I got another picture I'd like you to pull up.
Okay,
Excellent.
we got pictures.
Okay.
Yay.
Okay. This is Jay Sebring. This is the guy that time forgot about. Here's him cutting Eddie Albert, who was a big actor. His hair right here. And this is what the guy looked like. And that right here, the third picture is, can you see my arrow? No. Well, the third
No, I
picture is
can't see your arrow,
him.
but I can count to 3.
Okay, the third picture over. And well, that's basically the guy that time erased. And down here, I'm sorry, 1 second, please.
That's okay. I'm just excited we have pictures.
Well, once I start knowing this, how to do this better, we'll have more. Okay, that's enough pictures for tonight. Okay,
No more pictures for you.
okay, and also I wanted to talk about the day after they committed these murders, they went and they murdered 2 more people, Lino and Rosemary LaBanca. They owned a huge chain of supermarkets, and they murdered them, and they wrote "death to pigs" all over the walls there. So by the time they were done, they had murdered 8 people in the matter of 1 week. So basically, they were on a murdering spree. And
so they were the first members of Antifa?
yeah, they were. It was just really sad because can you imagine if that happened now? You wouldn't get very far because you got cameras everywhere. Back then you got far. There were no cameras anywhere. I mean, they drove up the section they went to murder these people. They were in the richest section in town. If you went to any rich section in Hollywood now, they have a camera on every block, on every house, a security system. Back then there were
no cameras. Back then were at the bank.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's it. And the only reason they got caught is because of the first murder. They discovered the body a couple months later. 8 months later, they discovered the body, and the body led them to these people, and that's when they started putting all these murders together. So the first murder, when they found the body, basically led to the murders of these other people. So it was an 8 months, over a period of 8 months, that it all got figured out. But if they don't discover this first body, they may never discover who murdered, who did the murders. And you have to remember, Squeaky Fromm, she is in the movie. You remember the one that was in the house and was being real nasty with Brad Pitt when he went to check on the old man? That character was Squeaky Fromm. She was played in the movie by Fanning. What's her name?
Fanning.
What's
Dakota Fanning.
Dakota Fanning.
Fanning.
That girl.
Yeah.
But Squeaky Fromm, 3 years, not 3, maybe 4 years after the murder, she got an order from Charles Manson to shoot the president, and she got a shot off at Ford and almost killed him. And she got arrested for trying to assassinate the president. That's how much his followers listened to him. Even in prison, he was giving orders to kill people.
And here's the interesting thing I wanted to bring up that we were talking about before. He was one of the few serial killers who was actually pretty hard to convict because there was a question of whether or not he himself was, directly tied to these murders, because he never actually went with them on these killings. He sent other
Yeah,
people out to do the murders. So when it came time to put him to trial, it was extremely hard to convict him because of tying him to these killings.
yeah, exactly. And nowadays, he probably would have been found innocent because of all the different charges and the juries now. People are illogical now. They don't think, back then they listened to evidence. So the chances are that he probably wouldn't even been convicted because they could never put him at any of the murder
No, they would have
scenes.
just said that he was depressed or not being serious, and it was on these other people's fault that they killed everyone.
And then he would have
Yeah, yeah.
then he would have went to Las Vegas and robbed the casino, robbed somebody, and got convicted of 20 years there, like OJ.
Yep. Yeah, I mean,
Imagine though, they were planning on doing more murders.
yeah, and it's kind of funny you bring that up, because to swing that to another famous case, Mr. O.J. Simpson, yeah, that was proof, like, modern times didn't necessarily mean that the convictions got better. I mean, they damn near had O.J. Simpson there, and the glove doesn't fit. You must acquit.
Well,
I mean,
both murders had to do with race because what Charles Manson was doing, he was trying to start a race war. What he did is he told his disciples when they go out to make it look like the Black Panthers did the murder. He
ooh, that's interesting.
wanted the murders. Read the book Helter Skelter, And also, if people want to go on YouTube and look at some of these fascinating stories of the Manson murders and the videos they have and the way they talk of everybody, there's so many. I was looking at hundreds of them today, really good ones. And that's why I found out that it just so happened we decided to do this show 3 days before the movie came out about Jay Sebring.
Yeah, I totally did not plan that at all. If anyone's been on my channel, this is just happy coincidence. I don't plan these things out whatsoever. I just thought this was a good topic to talk about. I had no clue about this other movie coming out, but I just found it fascinating.
Well, what I found nice about it though, is this man is finally getting his due with this movie. Because it's like I said, the coroner said that this guy was like a hero because he fought his balls off to try to save Sharon Tate. Every time they went to hurt her, he would fight. And that's what the three girls that were at the murder scene, they said that this guy just kept fighting. He was 5'4", 5'5", and Tex was 6'3", 6'4". So there was a huge size difference there. And Tex was like insane too. So he's trying to fight, even though he's a black belt, he just couldn't get to, Tex also had a gun and, he shot people already. And when you kill people that easy, that they're not even, that they didn't even charge Manson with. There had to be, because these people, these girls were from wealthy families. They were college girls that just met Charles Manson, and he had this power over these girls. He had like 100 girls out at the ranch and 10 guys. It was like one big orgy. So every guy's dream was to go hang out, because Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys was Charles Manson's best friend. And he loved Charles Manson until a couple months later, he realized Charles Manson was really trying to take advantage of him. But the fact of the matter was that Brian Wilson really cared a lot and you know who Brian Wilson is, am I right?
Yeah, I know
the head singer for the Beach Boys. And so Charles Manson went to his house and everything. And Charles Manson later said that he almost sent the people to Brian Wilson's house to kill them, but they were out of town doing a concert.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It's just, and I mean, it's not really funny, but it is kind of interesting to hear and see all, or more here, all of these different things that are tied in. Like, let me just ask you, what was the thing that finally got Manson? How did they particularly land on him? And why is he doing so much time? What connected him finally to all of this?
Well, the glove fit.
The first murder, when they started, they arrested the guy that was at the first murder. That guy's out of jail now. He got out in 1985, and he has his own church now. But he talks about the murder and how guilty he was because Charles Manson made him murder his best friend. And
wow.
Yeah, so but he said Charles Manson came to that murder, pulled out a sword and sliced the guy, and that the guy was bleeding all over the place. Then Charles Manson said, "Well, I'm out of here, guys. You guys kill him. I gotta go home." So just Charles Manson. Charles Manson was like 5'2", but Charles Manson was a very handsome guy too. But that's before he had the crazy cross on his head, the Nazi cross, and so when they arrested the guy for the murder of the very first guy, he said, "Hey," he basically said, these people over here are murdering a bunch of people, and they're sending us out to kill them." So at that time, they knew it was Charles Manson, but none of the girls would sing. None of the girls ever came forward. None of the girls ever testified. None of them. None, period. Not one would testify against him.
Wow, we're talking about a lot of girls at that at that ranch, and none of them turned on him. That is amazing, because nowadays people would just be like, "Yeah, they did it." You just walk across the street wrong, you'd be on social media. It sent out a tweet going, "He doesn't care about sidewalks. #cancel Zod."
His first big interview, Geraldo Rivera's first big interview, is he went to the prison to interview Charles Manson. And in the middle of the interview, Charles Manson in his crazy voice said, "Hey, I could send someone to your house tonight, tomorrow, have them cut off your head, put it in a box, and send it to me. Remember that, Geraldo." Just think about it. And he said that to Geraldo on live TV during the interview. Millions of people were like, "Holy shit, this guy's scary as hell."
Yeah, I mean, and that's crazy, because like now, you look at him, puppy. You look at him and he's like, he's all decked out. He's old. He looks just crazy. But back in the day, he had this disarming thing. He lured a lot of people in, and that's the thing that makes this guy probably one of the most interesting serial killers, and interesting to talk about or do a movie about, because of the fact that he literally just had people do his own killings. He didn't do them himself. He had the charisma, the charm that carried him, and it just makes for a very interesting kind of topic. One day when I take over the world, that's probably how I'm going to do that. Just
back then you had all these girls like they are now with Antifa. All these girls that go to school, the college girls, and they're mad at their parents and they want to rebel. Now they're going to Antifa or BLM. Back then, they went to Charles Manson or San Francisco for the flower children. When you think about it, in the history of time, these young girls and some young guys have been part of the con. Like Antifa, they look for people. They in their research and stuff, and if you research on them, they look for the very low of the guys. They look for guys that are nerdy, that are picked on, the people that just feel like they don't belong in the world. And with the girls, they do the same thing. So Antifa and BLM know how to recruit them. And that's back then. It was that movement. It was that flower, sex, drugs, rock and roll. It was that, and they just, you had more than just Charles Manson. There were other people like him. As a matter of fact, during the '60s and early '70s, there were cults all over the country that that they would have these flower children have sex all day and do drugs. And let's face it, if you're some guy and you're like being picked on and stuff, and all of a sudden you show up and there's 20 naked women on a ranch running around and willing to have sex with anybody. Like if you remember the movie, when Brad Pitt picked up the girl hitchhiking?
Yep.
Yeah, and that's how they did it. The Charles Manson girls. That's how they got their money. That's how they got, and they had it like a business. Charles Manson would send the girls out to make money by having sex in cars with strangers. Charles Manson was like a pimp. He was a killer. He was a very interesting character because, let's face it, who wouldn't want that power that Manson had? Because it takes guts and balls.
I would not want that power. Having to deal with one wife is already enough women.
Yeah, but he was the boss. But the thing was, he was the boss. They worship.
I am the boss, but she doesn't keep her mouth shut.
Yeah, but I don't know, PB. It seems like you say a lot of negative things about your wife. So, is she listening to you right now?
No, she's snoring on the couch.
Oh, did she ever shave her goatee?
That's good. No, she's never had to do that.
It's like a fantasy. It's like a guy. It's a gender thing.
Shit. Oh,
so
man.
You know what? My son has a picture of Brad Pitt. Usually he likes to show his face in a cowboy hat, but I think he really thinks he's Brad Pitt.
Oh
He
yeah.
does.
There's no doubt. That's like, the hair he's got going on now.
Disgusting. The older he gets, the better looking he gets. What the hell?
I know,
that?
it's sickening. He is Benjamin Button. That movie was his life story.
He's 55 years old, and now he's back with Jennifer Aniston, and I'm like, she doesn't age either. What the hell? Them two belong together.
And
my God. His other wife is like a bony looking skeleton that looks horrible. Well, Angela Jolie,
Yeah, he transferred the youth from her to himself. So now he's got another 50 years.
Imagine poor Brad Pitt. He's sitting there and he's saying, now I got to choose between Angela Jolie and Jennifer Aniston. I don't know what to do.
I know.
Imagine that poor bastard. Yeah, man. Yeah, it's like back in the 80s, Barack Obama made a speech in the early 90s. In the speech, he said, everybody in America wants to be Donald Trump. And now they make it sound like that Barack Obama thinks Trump's the worst piece of shit in the world. But at one time, he actually said in a speech that everybody wants to be Donald Trump. And there were rap songs about everybody wanted to be Donald Trump. Every black guy around wanted to hang out with Donald Trump. And all of a sudden, he's a racist. So go figure that one out.
Yeah, it's funny how quickly things change in the political landscape. And, well, we've seen a lot of backtracking, back-talking, and people forget things that they put in the interview. But guess what? We're in a social media age. The internet does not forget. But I'm going to start wrapping things up. We're at that.
Oh, 1 minute. I got to ask
magical
you
hour.
something. Hey, PB, what do you think about Ruth Ginsburg dying? You heard how she died, right?
I did not hear
you heard
how
about how
she died.
right? Well, her
No.
daughter accidentally her daughter accidentally dropped a cup of water on her. Then she started yelling, "I'm melting! I'm melting!" You didn't hear about that?
Shit.
Tell me if you didn't
Tonight is gonna be the night I get canceled. Oh, you
Can't
still
get canceled over a RBG joke?
God.
No, I feel like the
Say
what was that?
Say something.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, I just, I thought that was very interesting. It's pretty interesting how they're making this a big thing. I'm gonna be a little cold-hearted about this for a second. I really didn't give a shit. I was more interested in. I was more interested in
when she died, Donald Trump sitting behind. Yeah, when she died, Donald Trump's sitting behind a desk in the Oval Office, and he's rubbing his hands together and goes, "These people think they hate me now." He goes, because he's going to name somebody to replace her, and it's not going to be an ultra liberal, and there's going to be this war that's about to happen. Nope. So
yeah.
we have not.
We have
seen nothing yet. We have seen nothing yet with these riots and stuff. Whoever gets nominated by him, all hell's breaking loose.
Yeah, it's definitely probably going to lead to another show of us talking about more ridiculousness. But I'm going to start to wrap things up. I think we could all agree this was a great movie, very interesting character. Go ahead and definitely look into that. And I would definitely suggest.
Yeah, I loved every minute of it.
It's the best movie I've seen in years.
So
it's definitely this movie with that green book or whatever it was
Green
called.
Book.
Those two movies were phenomenal. I would put them at the same level because they were so enjoyable. But this movie is I don't like the modern day movies because they make them pretty awful. But this movie was made by a guy that doesn't make modern day movies. He doesn't make movies that make sense. Every time I think of Quentin Tarantino, I think of Zeke. Where's Zeke? And Bruce Willis goes, "Zeke's dead, baby. Zeke's dead." Remember that?
Yeah. Oh my God! And the dominatrix scene in Pulp Fiction. I think of that where he's like,
when you think when you think about the movies Quentin Tarantino gave us with that, the vampire one down in the bar in Mexico, and I mean, he gave us some movies that were just wild. How about even the cowboy one that was recently done? Kurt Russell was in it, and
Hateful Eight.
Oh my gosh, that was a good movie. I mean, it's like, you know what it is too? Here's why you know he's the best. Look at the actors that want to work for him.
Oh yeah,
Brad Pitt can work for anybody. Brad Pitt's probably the best actor alive. Has definitely, if you look at who has the greatest movies made in the last 25 years, no one comes near Brad Pitt. Nobody. And you could take his movies and they're just phenomenal, one right after another. He doesn't talk about politics. He stays out of it. I mean, he really knows how to run his career when you really think about it. And
he doesn't have time for politics. He's got a child from every country on earth.
Yeah, well, he couldn't get off the plane. He couldn't get out of that relationship. Angelette Jolie said to Brad Pitt, "Well, I'm keeping the children," and Brad Pitt was running out the house going, "Okay, you win." I'm going back to the chick that doesn't have no children. He went back to the chick that had no children, Jennifer Aniston. That should tell you something.
Oh man, that's great.
And if she ever says to him, "I want to adopt a child from Africa," I don't think Brad's going to be too happy.
No, he's going to have the flashback.
The only one that winds up happy in those trades are the little black kid that comes from Africa because they wind up with everything in life. That's when I wish I
Oh
was a
yeah.
little black kid from Africa.
I mean, hey, I could still be adopted, guys. If you wanna just
No.
adopt a grown man.
Okay, wrap it up, kid.
You know.
I'm going.
All right. Anyways, we're gonna start to wrap everything up here. Thank you, everybody. This was our first kind of like a joint review slash little historical thing, so you get some kind
And
of
next
good
week-
reference.
And
Oh, I was supposed to be smoking a joint?
Yeah.
Whoops.
next week, we're going to release nude pictures of Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Oh my
Well, there
God.
goes there goes my channel. Thank you. And on that note, thank you everybody for coming by. This has been Fandom Zone News. We will bring you the most relevant and great news stories out there. Definitely check us out next week for some more factual news and just some great laughs and talks. And you all take
Bye.
care of yourself and each other.